It is Friday, June 21st, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very motionful and exciting get your ass kicked out at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. We didn't actually do a whole lot of rolling, though. And that was kind of disappointing. I actually like a good roll now and then. But yeah, altogether it was pretty good. I don't know, it's a little bit exotic. We did a lot of, new and interesting things today, and it was a bit of a divergence from our normal fare, and which is fine. It's good to kind of branch out into new territory and also touch back on stuff that's been quite a while since you've gone to it. And one of them was a nice heel hook setup that, well, we didn't exercise it as a heel hook setup, but if you were doing it, it was a fucking heel hook setup. You put your foot to the outside of the hip, you kind of crouch it down a little bit, you pull it in on the knee, and you drop back, and you fall back down. It's kind of a guard pulley kind of thing, but then you roll over, hook the heel hook. And there were a couple other leg lock opportunities from that particular entry to somebody who's, say, laying down and in a, I don't know, maybe a spider guard kind of position, or I don't know, or kind of an open guard thing, But nonetheless, I don't know. It's like I said, it was really a lot of funky stuff. Certainly more motions than a lot of the stuff that I've been doing. Although I will say this, one of the things I really liked about today's class approach was that it was a progression. We went from one position onto another, and so it was like a guard pull, and then like a navigation around the guard pull, and then from there, if you were to resume the guard, the opportunity to get around that again, and to crush it into a leg opportunity, So anyway, like I said, it was a bit of an off the path kind of thing. I would have really liked to have had a lot more opportunity to drill it. I felt one thing I did feel though also is that it was a bit too much. Like the progression was good, but like maybe if we had only done 3 steps of the progression but gone like longer duration per, I think it would have stuck a little better. But I mean, we were doing like a minute per side, and so even with a competent player as your teammate, you can only get like 3 or 4 reps in on it, and that's just not enough to really get a grasp of it and really understand it. I think you need to be getting in like 8 to 15 reps. If you're with a really good partner and whatever, and you can get in 12 to 15 reps on it, that's going to stick a lot better than some drawn out sequence of moves that you only do 2 or 3 reps each on, But that's my feeling on it. I think the problem there is, of course, a lack of structure, and that's kind of a thing for me. Like, I feel like you should be going in a particular direction, when you're training, that you have a overriding desire in any given class or lesson, that there's just more to it than a bunch of moves. And I think that sometimes you get lost in trying to convey as much information as possible, and that's it's good to be trying to get across information, but if it's not sticking because there's too high a volume of it at any one time, I think that only serves to draw out the learning process. Where things that you would have gotten if you'd gotten to rep 8 on it, that you don't revisit it for another month, and by then you've already forgotten what you did on reps 1, 2, and 3 that you managed to get in during the first lesson. And that would be my only gripe with it. Otherwise, though, the progression made plenty of sense, and it was really, like oriented to where, like, if you were in a fight with somebody, or if you were competing and you did a guard pull, and from there, what types of things that could be going on either side of the guard pull, even, and that to me is really, really important. But again, I think the volume was just a little bit too high. Maybe taking one from the top, one from the bottom, one from the, and then a progression from each to a better submission position. I think probably would have been a little more effective in concretizing that information. But again, that's just me. Repetition is the key with a lot of this stuff, and I find that there are a lot of movements, even now, that they're only now starting to come into my game when they're fucking one stripe white belt kind of moves, like a good Oompa escape or a good shrimp out. I think that those are things that I should have been getting a long time ago, but for whatever reason, that it's only now really starting to feel as part of a natural part of my game, as opposed to something I'm actually having to reach into my mind for, But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some music. And as always, we've got to throw down the body count for our first dance. And so it's going to be the Ski Mask Way here on Coin Metal. And that was Static X with Push It. Oh man, I love that song. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, not that. I had a whole bunch of stuff stacked all over my browser here. I had to actually go hunting for some stuff, which is unusual. But, I just noticed something. Bitcoin broke $10,000 today, but it didn't stop there. It's kind of encroaching on 11,000 right now. I find that kind of amazing. I mean, not too long ago we were looking at about half that, so it's pretty impressive to say the least. I don't know. I think maybe it's all of the people that were going to get into making stable coins and using those to fuck up the price of Bitcoin have slowed down or are starting to fold tents, or just understanding that the whole stablecoin thing is a good way to lose money. If you're not doing it on a level where you actually have like an exchange that's kind of helping you along with your criminal activity. I don't know. I consider them to be basically counterfeit fiat, but that's just me. Anyway, interestingly enough, though, we are going to get into some regulation stuff. We got this thing on CoinDesk here. All global crypto exchanges must now share customer data, FATF rules. You're going to go suck a dick right there. Anyway, this is by Anna Baydakova. So no penis. And this is authored June 21st, 2019 at 1600 UTC. A powerful intergovernmental organization devoted to combating money laundering and terrorism financing has finalized its recommendations on regulating cryptocurrencies for its 37 member countries. As expected, the FATF standards released Friday include controversial requirement that virtual asset service providers, VASPs, including cryptocurrency exchanges, pass information about their customers to one another when transferring funds between firms. Go suck a dick. The final recommendation makes official the contentious part of FATF's February proposal saying that countries should make sure that when crypto businesses send money, they, quote, obtain and hold required and accurate originator-sender information and required beneficiary-recipient information and submit the information to beneficiary institutions. If any, further countries should ensure that beneficiary institutions obtain and hold required, not necessarily accurate, originator information and required and accurate beneficiary information. Under the new guidance, the required information for each transfer includes, quote, the originator's name, i.e. the sending customer, 2, the originator's account number, where such an account is used to process the transaction, ergo the VA wallet. Number 3, or originator's physical geographical address or national identity number or customer identification number, i.e. not a transaction number, that uniquely identifies the originator to the ordering institution or date and place of birth. Number 4, the beneficiary's name. And number 5, the beneficiary account number, where such an account is used to process the transaction, ergo the VA wallet. Calling the, quote, threat of criminal and terrorist misuse of virtual assets a, quote, serious and urgent issue, FATF said in a public statement that it will give countries 12 months to adopt the guidelines, with a review set for June 2020. The so-called travel rule is a long-standing requirement for international banks when sending each other money on customers' behalf, but blockchain industry advocates argued it would be onerous, if not impossible, to put into practice with crypto, harmful to user privacy and counterproductive to law enforcement goals. Enforcement recommendations. The guidelines also suggest that individuals using crypto wallets to transmit value could be designated VASPs and thus subject to licensing requirements, at least if they do so as a business. Quote, in cases where the VASPs is a natural person, it should be required to be licensed or registered in the jurisdiction where its place of business is located, the determination of which may include several factors for consideration by countries, the document says. Individuals are not VASPs if they use crypto to buy goods or services, or if they make, quote, a one-off exchange or transfer, FATF said. FATF is also giving countries the option of requiring foreign VASPs to provide products or services within their jurisdiction to register with the appropriate authorities. Quote, competent authorities should take the necessary legal or regulatory measures to prevent criminals or their associates from holding or being the beneficial owner of a significant or controlling interest or holding a management function in a VASP, the guidelines states elsewhere. Such measures should include requiring VASPs to seek authorities' prior approval for substantive changes in shareholders' business operations and structures, it adds. For enforcement purposes, FATF recommends that countries consider using open source information and web scraping tools to identify unregistered or unlicensed operations advertising their services. Authorities should also consider public feedback information from reporting institutions and, quote, non-publicly available information such as intelligence or law enforcement reports. The guidance even addresses services designed to obfuscate the origin of crypto transfers, saying that nations should make sure that providers can either manage or mitigate the risks of transfers that use mixers, tumblers, or similar tools. Quote, If the VASP cannot manage and mitigate the risks posed by engaging in such activities, then the VASP should not be permitted to engage in such activities, the document reads. VASPs should also be able to freeze or prohibit transactions with sanctioned individuals, FATF said. Short-term impact. Data analytics company Chainalysis, among others, has warned that instead of more transparency, the now official rule would spur services to shut down or drop off the radar. Damn Skippy. But despite hearing such concerns at a private sector consultation meeting in Vienna last month, which drew 300 attendees, the FATF, led by the United States, pressed ahead. Quote, by adopting the standards and guidelines agreed to this week, the FATF will make sure that virtual asset service providers do not operate in the dark shadows, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said in remarks to the FATF plenary session held Friday in Orlando, Florida. This will help the fintech sector, quote, stay one step ahead of rogue regimes and sympathizers of illicit causes, he said, adding, quote, we will not allow cryptocurrency to become the equivalent of secret numbered accounts, and we will allow for proper use, but we will not tolerate the continued use for illicit services. Or activities, rather. To be clear, the FATF's recommendations for anti-money laundering policies are not binding. Member countries adopt them by passing legislation or writing regulations. However, countries that fail egregiously out of compliance with FATF standards get put on a blacklist, making them, quote, radioactive to foreign investment. Pfft, according to who? The guidelines also come in just before the United States' one-year presidency of the FATF ends on June 30th. Marshall Billingsley, the U.S. Treasury official who holds the rotating post, had listed applying FATF standards to virtual currency among his top priorities. Yeah, he can go fuck himself. I noticed that all the chatter about Libra kind of died off on my Twitter feed. There's a little bit of it left, but most of it's of the incredulousness kind of perspective. You know, I think it's really interesting the way it was presented. I still say it's a fucking trap. You know, if you're involving yourself in it, ask for money in Bitcoin and tell them to fuck themselves. Don't take the fucking Libra for money. You know, the fact of the matter is that state institutions and even social media outlets such as Facebook and Twitter, they get hacked all the time. You know, I just got some notice that some state organization that had my fucking data, they got fucking hacked. So, I mean, it's like, if these people cannot not be hacked, why are they asking me to give more information to more people? I mean, it's just going to make my information less secure. You know, I don't give a fuck about their goals. I mean, what really are their goals? Just to prevent poor people from making money? Is that it? I mean, because that really seems to be the whole fucking gist here, is that they're pissed that they can't keep slaves as slaves because they can make money out of crypto. And they're like, oh no, we can't have that. We got to have our slave class. We have to have our people that we can point down to and say, these people suck. Well, I'm sorry, man. It's too fucking bad. We're done with that game. We're done with that game. Because it's not true. You know, I mean, it's like, I just had this discussion with somebody. They were kind of trying to promote Marxism. And I'm like, dude, the state as it exists today is a relic of like the 17th century or some shit like that. And it's slowly becoming clear to all of us that its utility is kind of not there anymore. You know, I mean, pretty much everything you need to conduct a variety of business activities that you were not able to before. You can fucking do it online. Like you wanted to start up a t-shirt company. You can do that online. And if people like your t-shirts, they'll fucking buy your t-shirts. Now imagine when you break out of the cycle of needing to interface with US dollars at all. I mean, they're literally making it to where cryptocurrencies are more viable and a better option only because it doesn't interface with any of the fucking regulatory frameworks that they have where they can yank your chain and say, no, you can't do that. You know, all of that shit that we just read about, you know, their proposed regulations and how they view it, how they view cryptocurrencies and how they want to try and regulate it. I can think of one thing that has been available since roughly 2010. No, actually, I think they were around earlier than that. But 2010, 2011 is when we really started to see some effort put towards the user interface on wallets. Yeah, QT wallet. You download the motherfucking blockchain. You got a fucking QT wallet. You're hosting a node. You're golden. You could be doing all kinds of transactions there without interfacing with anybody else except for the fucking network of the coin that you're using or transacting in. You know, so, you know, I mean, that's such prescience. I mean, when you think about what we're facing now with even the proposal of these regulations, it's like the kind of prescience that Satoshi and those guys had with setting ahead, you know, getting ahead of it and saying, all right, in the event that they're to shut down our exchanges or shut down businesses that are allowing us or that we're doing business with, you know, because they're interfacing with fiat, what if they're all shut down? Well, how will we still be able to transact our currencies? Oh, I know. We'll just do it peer-to-peer. With this little application. Allows us to send messages from one to another on the Bitcoin network, exchanging the ownership of the coins from one to another. And so all of a sudden, all you really have that you need then is an agreed upon exchange rate between you and your business associate that you're doing business with and the product in question. That's it. I don't need a state, I don't need a bank, I don't need a lawyer to arbitrate the deal for me. I can agree to whatever exchange rate I want with my business partner. I can say, all right, you know, tell you what, I'm going to sell you this at 0.05 Bitcoin. That's how much I want for it. Guy takes a look at it, says, yeah, that's worth it. I give him my address. He sends me the fucking coin. One transaction on chain, the coin goes from him, comes to me, everybody happy. He pays the transaction fee, and mine are happy to have the transaction included in a block. That's how this shit's supposed to work. You know, and that's why I really laugh at this whole fucking layer 2 and block fucking lightning network and all off-chain bullshit. No. As soon as I do that, I require a third party to do that shit for me. And it's not really apparent now, because I mean, we're still talking about $4 transaction fees. But I'm going to tell you what, those fucking transaction fees are going to spike again, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, well, you know, other than all the philosophical and all the personality war bullshit over Bitcoin Cash, you know, other than that, it works as a fucking cryptocurrency. I can send it from peer to peer without going off chain. So why am I going to choke myself in a fucking closet here with paying these ass rape transaction fees when I can be saving that money? Why am I going to do it? I'm not going to fucking do it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into a little bit of music here. And you know, I haven't been playing any Suicidal Tendencies And so here it is. Trip at the brain. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Sixth with No Wishbones. Yeah, I know we went just a teeny tiny long there, but I promise to shorten them up in the future. Anywho, let's read this fucking thing that the Fat F put out today in Orlando, Florida. June 21st, 2019, public statement on virtual assets and related providers. Number 1, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, today adopted and issued an interpretive note to Recommendation 15 on New Technologies, INR 15, that further clarifies the FATF's previous amendments to the international standards relating to virtual assets and describes how countries and obliged entities must comply with the relevant FATF recommendations to prevent the misuse of virtual assets for money laundering and terrorist financing and the financing of proliferation. What the fuck is that? What's financing of proliferation? Is that people getting rich? Could that be it? Anyway, number 2. Previously, on October 2015, the FATF updated its standards to clarify their application to virtual assets and virtual asset service providers by amending Recommendation 15 and adding two new definitions to the FATF glossary. The United Nations Security Council welcomed these and other ongoing efforts by the FATF to address the regulation and supervision of virtual asset activities and virtual asset service providers, including in its Resolution 2462 of March 28, 2019. Today's action by the FATF builds on those developments. Number 3, INR 15 establishes binding measures relevant to both countries and virtual asset service providers, as well as other obliged entities that engage in or provide virtual asset products and services in order to establish a more level playing field across the virtual asset ecosystem. Bullshit. Number 4. The obligations require countries to assess and mitigate their risks associated with virtual asset activities and service providers, license or register service providers, and subject them to supervision or monitoring by competent national authorities. Notable countries will not be permitted to rely on a self-regulatory body for supervision or monitoring. Like you got a fucking choice, Fat F. And implement sanctions and other enforcement measures when service providers fail to comply with their AML-CFT obligations, and underscore the importance of international cooperation. Some countries may decide to prohibit virtual asset activities based on their own assessment of the risks and regulatory context, or support other policy goals. Number 5. Further, INR 15 requires countries to ensure that service providers also assess and mitigate their money laundering and terrorist financing risks, and implement the full range of AML/CFT preventative measures under the FATF recommendations, including customer due diligence, record keeping, suspicious transaction reporting, and screening of all transactions for compliance with targeted financial institutions, among other measures, just like other entities subject to AML-CFT regulation. This includes coordination with relevant authorities to ensure the compatibility of AML/CFT requirements with data protection and... Wrong. The best way to protect the data is to not collect it. So by collecting the data, you subject it to insecurity. So that violates your own fucking goals. Anyway, continue. And privacy rules. How can I be private if you're reporting every fucking transaction I got to the fucking fat F? Fuck you. And similar provisions. Also, the fat F published updated guidance for a risk-based approach to virtual assets and virtual asset service providers, which builds upon the fat F's groundbreaking 2015 guidance paper that hasn't done jack shit, to further assist countries and providers of virtual asset products and services in understanding and complying with their AML CFT obligations. Okay, hold on stop a fucking minute here. 2015, the fat F issues their groundbreaking guidance paper. Okay, I can't name a major bank in the entire fucking planet that has not been busted at some level for fucking money laundering. And these regulations are supposed to prevent that shit. But it happens, and it's not until like a year and a half later that anybody gets busted. And it's not the fat F busting anybody. It's like, these guys fuck up so badly that somebody dies or, some shit like that. And then it breaks open, and oh my god, these guys have been doing fucking billions of dollars worth of fucking money laundering for the Sinaloa cartel or some other fucking organization like that. It happens throughout history too. It used to happen with like the CIA. They needed their shadow money to do shit, and it wasn't until like the late 80s, early 90s that it comes out that they're like funding cocaine and fucking heroin operations and all this other shit. It's like, all right, give me a fucking break, man. Quit giving me this bullshit that this regulation does anything but keep poor people poor and rich people rich. I refuse to believe it. Especially, they talk about proliferation. What proliferation of what? Proliferation of wealth? Could it fucking be fucking proliferation of private wealth? Jesus Christ. Number 6. The threat of criminal and terrorist misuse of virtual assets is serious and urgent. And the fat F expects all countries to take prompt action to implement the fat F recommendations in the context of virtual asset activities and service providers. The fat F will monitor implementation of new requirements by countries and service providers and conduct a 12-month review in June 2020. Number 7. The development of INR 15 and the update guidance has benefited greatly from dialogue with private sector to better understand the technology underlying virtual assets, different types of virtual assets, and the associated business models, existing technological solutions for potentially enhancing AML/CFT compliance, and the anti-money laundering and terrorist financing risks that the misuse of virtual assets can pose, absent effective regulation, supervision, and industry AML/CFT controls. Both the fat F and its members will continue dialogue with the private sector as governments and industry implement the fat F recommendations in order to ensure an effective response to the risks. Number 8. The fat F will establish a contact group to engage industry and monitor industry-led efforts to enhance compliance with the fat F standards and better safeguard the international financial system from abuse. Yeah, heaven forbid poor people should get rich. Number 9. Finance ministers and central bank governors at the G20 meeting in Fukuoka welcomed and expressed their support for the fat F's actions to the regulation and the oversight of virtual assets and virtual asset service providers. Today, the fat F has successfully delivered on the G20 call to regulate and supervise virtual asset activities and related service providers for AML/CFT, and to further clarify the fat F's expectations for how countries must develop robust AML/CFT frameworks in this regard. The FATF will continue to take steps to ensure the effective regulation and supervision of how new technologies are used, including in the context of virtual assets, in order to mitigate the associated money laundering and terrorist financing risks and support responsible innovation across the financial services sector. Yeah, bullshit. Basically make it to where only banks are doing the fucking innovating. Man, give me a break. I'm so sick of these fucking people, man. You know, the virtual assets. Let's get serious, okay? They're talking about cryptocurrencies there. At least in part. So let's get into something else here that I came across, and this one kind of brings a little spark of joy to my heart, because it's very close to my personal desires as far as how this should play out. You know, the fact of the matter is, the difference with cryptocurrencies is that the source of the virtual asset in question is not a bank, is not a nation, is not a hyper-supervised currency. The networks that these currencies are developed by, or not developed, but created by, are independently owned by millions of people all over the planet. I think millions more should be, and actually it's probably more like hundreds of thousands, maybe tens of thousands at the least. But I think that responsibility should be falling to far more of us than it currently is. And I happen to believe that the current development path of mining is going to end, where we see these big hash farms in the fucking bushes of bushwhack of China and shit. I don't think that's going to be the future development of cryptocurrency mining. I think that, for one, it's going to get more diffuse. It's going to go to nations, or nation states in like Russia, in Eurasia, throughout Eurasia, not just in China. And then it'll go all through Europe, and I think the countries that we see that have the more lax approach to quote-unquote regulation of certain products and whatnot, such as like Spain, Portugal, that they are going to be looking at the gains that are happening in cryptocurrencies, and they're going to be looking at how their own central government and its own fucking central financing has been fucking up, and they're going to say, you know what? Let's try this crypto thing. I'm willing to accept it as money. It looks like it's appreciating in value. Let's go for it. And they're not going to be including anybody else in their commerce. And what leads me to believe that is things like this. Now, whether or not this will be all that popular or if it'll catch on at all, I can't tell you, but I think it has plenty of potential, because this is really where Bitcoin got its start from. Where it all really got popular at, and where I believe it will get its popularity back again. And this one's on CoinDesk. At-home crypto miner CoinMine now pays out in Bitcoin. And this is by John Biggs. So yes, penis. This is authored June 21st, 2019 at 12 UTC. CoinMine, a cryptocurrency mining device aimed at the hobbyist market, will now give its users the option to be paid in Bitcoin. The device was able to mine Monero, Zcash, Grin, and Ethereum at launch, a set of cryptocurrencies that had a low enough difficulty threshold to allow for the average miner to see a minimal return. The addition of Bitcoin payouts gives miners more incentive to try the $799 model, $699 with special BTC discount product, to get you the most Bitcoin possible for your CoinMine 1. We had to engineer Mine OS to automatically mine whatever crypto converts to Bitcoin at the highest rate, and then exchange it to Bitcoin for you to put it into your wallet, says the founder Farbud Nevi. This way you're getting more Bitcoin than if the device was mining Bitcoin directly. The CoinMine box won't make you a millionaire overnight. Nevi sees it as a test bed and experimental tool for those who want to dip a toe into the mining process. Given the resource requirements of high-stakes mining, however, the CoinMine offers users a less energy-intensive option. Quote, at today's numbers, your CoinMine 1 will generate about $15 to $20 a month of Bitcoin in US dollar prices, said Nevi. Of course, that number changes based on the future value of Bitcoin. If the value of Bitcoin appreciates, so will the value of what you made with your CoinMine 1. Nevi also sees the product as a cheaper and faster way to take part in networks like Lightning. Okay. Quote, the time to build and maintain a compatible device with mining and a Bitcoin Lightning node is about $400. If your time is worth about $20 an hour and it takes you 20 hours to research and build the hardware and software, he said, the parts for a miner and a Bitcoin Lightning node could cost you $500 easily. That's $900, and you would still have to control your DIY device from a command line with a monitor and keyboard instead of an app that you can just tap on. CoinMine is rolling out the Bitcoin update today, or BTC update, I should say, and users will be able to mine and even, quote, put their crypto to work, said Nevi. We're also partnering with services like Compound Finance, Cred, BlockFi, so you can put your crypto to work and earn a return on the crypto that your CoinMine makes. We call it compound mining. All of this is possible because of MineOS, he says. I can see some potential for abuse there. Yeah. Anyway, I think that the whole idea of mining an altcoin unknowingly and then having it converted over to Bitcoin, probably without your knowledge also, is kind of a mistake. I don't know. I would rather have hardware under my own control that I've got my own fucking OS on and then I'm doing my own settings with. Than this pre-formatted business. But it'll be simple enough for some people, and it might give them a good tiptoe in. That's a good idea. However, I think that with the kind of control over your finances that you're assuming by participating in cryptocurrencies, it really behooves you to assume as much control as humanly possible. And that's really what makes this shit succeed, is you getting whatever fucking hardware that you can actually afford to put together to dedicate to mining and tweaking and maximizing your gains on it. That's what teaches you what algorithms work out the best for you with the hardware that you have and how to make those decisions for yourself. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of missed in all of this. Or at least that's what's missed in the way that they convey these articles, is that this is an ultimate power that's being handed to us. And so trying to hand it off to other people, I think, is a big mistake. I don't really agree with like mining pools. I think we ought to be all mono mining, but that's just me. In my opinion, that would create a more robust network, because there's not the risk of the pool operator being coerced to, support certain VIPs that you don't necessarily believe in. Anyway, let's get back into some other articles here. No, that's not what I wanted to cover. The coin miner, that's kind of good stuff. Blah blah blah. plenary session remarks. I don't know if I want to get into that one. I mean, because we gave plenty of fucking time to these guys. And why not? This is a notification on the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Remarks of Secretary Stephen T. Mnuchin, Fat F Plenary Session, Orlando, Florida. Delegates and guests, I am penis. Big penis. Delegates and guests, I am pleased to join you today to close the 2019 Orlando Plenary Session of the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, to help mark the important 30-year anniversary of this important body. FATF President Marshall Billingsley informs me that the FATF has had a productive week tackling some of the most pressing illicit finance challenges facing the international finance system. I want you to contemplate just one thing here. These people have supposedly been at work for 30 fucking years, right? I can think of at least 2 major financial calamities that if their organization was worth a shit, probably would have never happened. But as history has proven, they're pretty fucking useless. Continuing on. Holding high-risk jurisdictions to account. The FATF continues to take concrete steps to combat illicit financing by criminals, terrorists, rogue nations, and other actions who actively attempt to exploit any weak links, except for when it's big banks. However, the FATF standards are only effective if jurisdictions around the world actually take measures to implement them. Failure to enforce well-defined consequences for inaction could undermine the credibility of the FATF's peer review process and of the well-defined peer review process and of the organization as a whole. The FATF responded to Iran's willful failure to address its systematic money laundering and terrorist financing deficiencies by requiring increased supervisory examination for branches and subsidiaries of financial institutions based in Iran and calling for additional countermeasures to be reimposed if Iran does not make further progress. The United States calls on all nations to join us in ensuring the FATF's standards are implemented globally and standing together against those who threaten the security of the international financial system. Progress made under U.S. presidency. As we gavel the end of the U.S. presidency of the FATF, I would like to briefly discuss the progress the organization has made over the last year to address existing and emerging vulnerabilities. Under the U.S. presidency, we have prioritized 3 critical areas. Number 1, illicit financing risks associated with virtual assets. Number 2, strengthening international counter-financing of terrorism efforts. And 3, enhancing work on countering weapons of mass destruction and proliferation financing. Virtual assets. One of the most valuable contributions of this plenary is the regulation of all virtual assets, especially cryptocurrencies. I commend efforts by the FATF, or the FATF, to address the growing misuse of cryptocurrencies and other virtual assets by money launderers, terrorist financiers, and other illicit actors. I'm proud to note that under the co-chairmanship of Spain and Singapore, you have delivered on the ambitious goal of addressing these risks in a number of ways. The interpretive note adopted this week includes virtual asset standards that are binding to all countries. By issuing updated guidance, the FATF is enhancing financial transparency and setting expectations This will enforce a level playing field for virtual asset service providers, including cryptocurrency providers and traditional financial institutions. Yeah, bullshit. Basically level you right out. Under these new measures, virtual asset service providers will be required to implement the same AML CFT requirements as traditional financial institutions. They will need to, number one, identify who they are sending funds on behalf of and who is the recipient of those funds. Number two, develop processes where they are required to share that information with other providers of virtual assets and law enforcement. Number three, know their customers and conduct proper due diligence to ensure they are not engaging in illicit activity. And number four, develop risk-based programs that account for the risks in their particular type of business. By adopting the standards and guidelines agreed to this week, the FATF will make sure that virtual asset service providers do not operate in the dark shadows. This will enable the emerging fintech sector to stay one step ahead of rogue regimes and sympathizers of illicit causes searching for avenues to raise and transfer funds without detection. Number one, we will not allow cryptocurrency to become the equivalent of secret numbered accounts. It already is too fucking late. Number two, we will allow for proper use, but we will not tolerate the continued use for illicit activities. Too fucking bad. Number three, in the U.S., I have convened a working group with the Federal Reserve and other regulators to make sure we keep the use of digital assets for legitimate use only. Number four, I encourage you to do the same in your markets. We must work together to ensure that virtual assets are no longer a safe haven for illicit actors to end run around establishment AML CFT safeguards. The United States welcomes responsible innovation, including new technologies that may improve the efficiency of the financial system and expand access to financial services. Yet, we must maintain our financial system's integrity and protect it from abuse. That is why the United States has in place a comprehensive AML CFT framework for regulating, supervising, and taking enforcement actions relating to virtual currency and other digital assets. The United States subjects the same AML CFT controls to covered providers and activities as any other U.S. financial institution. For example, service providers must register with FinCEN. They must also institute an AML program and record-keeping and reporting measures, including filing suspicious activity reports. Countering the financing of terrorism. Another U.S. focus during our FATF presidency has been on practical efforts to dismantle terrorist financing networks. I am proud that we are working to train prosecutors and judges to more effectively investigate and prosecute terrorist financing, and that we adopted new guidance in assessing terrorist financing risks. We are moving beyond simply establishing legal frameworks for ensuring that these laws are actually disrupting the financing of terrorist groups. Countering weapons of mass destruction, proliferation, financing. Finally, under the U.S. presidency, the FATF examined ways in which the standards could more effectively address the threat of WMD proliferation financing. Rogue nations, terrorists, and international criminal syndicates have become increasingly sophisticated in evading sanctions and other preventative measures. In order to continue to develop WMDs, whatever, I encourage this organization to build upon the work that was done here to ensure that the FATF Global Network's policies and controls effectively counter this evolving threat. Conclusion: While illicit finance threats continually evolve, I'm confident that successful efforts to counter emerging threats will be developed here by this body and by its global network. On behalf of the United States, it has been an honor for the U.S. to serve as the FATF president. We look forward to continuing this critical work with our partners here to realize a more secure future for the United States and our friends, our partners, and allies around the world. Yeah, fuck off. I find this thing completely fucking ridiculous. You know, the whole thing of cryptocurrencies is that they're operational peer-to-peer. And so when you consider people and entities as simply peers on a network, the idea of addressing them as being quote-unquote terrorists or whatever, it's a irrelevant context. You know, in the emerging markets, the idea of trying to counter these people would be to compete with them. That's right, compete with them. Because they're going to be shifting to mining too. We are going to be shifting to mining too. And it's at that point that you kind of lose all your traction. You know, if it comes down to, say, mining Bitcoin or mining another cryptocurrency, and we're having to compete with you for the coins, you're just going to be like any other competitor on the network. You're not going to be guaranteed anything. You're going to put forward some fucking electricity, some bandwidth, and some hardware, and you're going to be on a level playing field with us. But the advantage of being in America or in China or in Japan or in Turkmenistan or wherever, that's going to go away. The advantage of who is closest to the manufacturing capacity of GPUs, CPUs, ASICs, FPGAs, whatever people want to dedicate to mining. The availability of cheap electricity. The availability of high-speed internet access. These are going to be the factors that determine where shit happens and who's doing what. Not the FATF, not the fucking Federal Reserve, not the President of the United States, not the head of the UN, none of these fucking entities. None of this shit is going to be a determining factor. Because in cryptocurrencies, these people are widely recognized as inefficiencies in the system. They're people we have to pay to do absolutely nothing but demand that we pay them. That's it. That's all they fucking do. Do we really need that in the network? Does it make the network work better? Nope. What makes the network work better? Fuck. More throughput. You know? So, better access to high-speed internet. Build out your fucking internet access. That's the way to compete. It's not who has the better regulations and who can choke off who anymore. That shit is going away. Who needs what? Who can provide what? These are going to be the determining factors in the future. And we're all in for it. So let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I'm feeling the need for some prong. And so here it is. Rude Awakening. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Fear Factory with Digimortal. And so next up, I'm going to touch back to a theme that I come back to often, only because I continue to see reports and evidence that people just aren't paying attention to how sensitive data can make you a target. Collecting too much of it makes you into a honeypot that people just want to hack into and steal your shit. And so here it is. It's on news.bitcoin.com. Privacy is paramount. How KYC makes us all less free. KYC, know your customer policies, and endless private data collection coupled with force-backed violent legislation compromise the utility and ethics of crypto trading. An uncompromising stance on user privacy is critically important to crypto traders and peer-to-peer transactions. It's not about having nothing to hide, but about sound economics, human dignity, and creating a more peaceful and less violent world. Let's see here. Who authored this? This is by Graham Smith, authored 2 days ago. So yes, penis. Making bathroom breaks illegal. Quote, if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide. The oft-repeated trope is familiar to all, but really what lies behind it? It's clear when I am using the bathroom alone in my room writing or just taking a breather to escape the madness of a particularly stressful day that I have, quote, nothing to hide as such. I've done nothing wrong, and yet privacy remains paramount to me. Force someone to surrender the precious stuff and see how long they remain healthy. It won't be long until they are resisting, breaking down emotionally, physically, and mentally. Privacy is a treasure trove where creation happens. Regeneration. And most importantly, it's a basic and non-negotiable prerequisite to human dignity, anywhere and everywhere in the world. With the advent of Bitcoin in 2009, new economic applications of privacy were made possible. Fed up with the coercive monetary status quo, Satoshi Nakamoto released a financial protocol enabling free and autonomous trade without a middleman or centralized authority overseeing people's private business. Over 10 years later, the idea is now pursued hotly by massive state-approved railroading campaigns. Centralized, pro-government exchanges seem to have missed the memo on sound econ and privacy. They don't wish to let you trade without knowing nearly every damn thing about you. First, for all its perceived security, this approach denies the real utility and value of blockchain technology and does so in breathtakingly draconian Keynesian fashion. This has got to be Roger Ver that wrote this, or at least inspired it. Money of the future, Internet 2.0. If you'll suffer me a bit of personal reflection here, I'll take you in my time machine to 2016 Tokyo. I was in the Roppongi district, heading to a small bar in the afternoon to make my second ever crypto to fiat transaction. I was newly jobless and had been blogging on a blockchain-based social media site to scrape up some money in the interim. My wife wasn't sure about all this, quote, crypto stuff, and was of course distraught about our financial situation. I had used the Bitcoin ATM at this place once before, so I swapped my Steam for Bitcoin, got on the train, and hit up the interesting little machine again. In the shadowy corner of a bar, I avoided utilizing large exchanges up to this point for privacy reasons. The transaction was easy. I stuffed the money in an envelope and went home. Wife satisfied, me still alive to blog another day, while I searched for a new, quote, normie job as a teacher. Without the ease and simplicity of exchange that day, I would not have been able to support myself and my family during a very difficult time. Without jumping through all kinds of privacy invasive hoops and long unacceptable delays. A big win for crypto, the free market, and privacy. Whoosh! Fast forward to present day. Take a walk around any of the major wards in Tokyo, and you'll no longer find many easy-to-use crypto ATMs. What you will find are giant billboards loudly plastered with greasy celebrities advertising huge state-regulated, privacy-compromising exchanges. What you will find is that most of the easy-to-use, privately owned ATMs have been ripped out, shut down, or discontinued. Why? Newly enacted coercive legislation, bureaucratic red tape, and licensing fees in Japan. People like me who rely on economic autonomy and the utility of crypto to exchange value for value are squeezed into an even tighter corner, it would seem. This trend is not endemic to Japan either. From people being arrested for trading in Michigan, to localbitcoins.com recently shutting down cash trades, to insane and nearly impossible to follow tax legislation on crypto all over the world, or the outright outlawing of various tokens and trading protocols, the agenda is clear. Take away the privacy, simplicity, and human dignity out of crypto, and with it the whole utility and its compatibility to set people free and create more private, peaceful world. Free trade is a choice. This dystopian world, devoid of digital privacy, may sound dark, but in my view, that only makes the light of free trade shine brighter and bigger. The truth is, nothing can take away the utility of crypto. It's a technology, not a philosophy, not a spiritual movement, and not politics. Algorithms, mathematical formulas, blockchains, and hashes don't care who you are. Whether you're president or peasant, anything in between, crypto sees you as the free market does. A trader wishing to exchange value for value. Nothing more, nothing less. There is one magnificently critical catch, though. Nothing can take away the utility of crypto except the choice not to use it freely, or to not use it freely. Revolutionary fintech only retains utility for free market transactions, and this should go without saying, should we choose to use it freely. Regardless of risk or perceived lack thereof, the market isn't going to, quote, free market for me. The tech isn't going to trade for me. That's on me, and that's a wonderful thing. The price we pay for economic freedom. Of course, no one wants to become one of the many non-violent, peaceful traders the state has chosen to make examples of. Ross Ulbricht, Aaron Swartz, or that aforementioned guy in Michigan. We've got to be smart and shrewd. Encourage mass adoption and focus on the positive, to the end of these violent systems not becoming the focus, but becoming increasingly irrelevant. Life is inherently risk and opportunity laden. In a sense, these are one and the same. A safety which strips humans of their economic privacy and basic dignity is infinitely worse than a dignified free choice in a perilous yet opportunity-filled reality. Tank Man cometh. On June 4th, 2019, a KYC-free peer-to-peer trading platform emerges, stepping out like a tiny Chinese man in front of a behemoth rumbling Fiat tank. Millions watch in expectant horror. Who is he? Someone in the crowd implores desperately. The tank directly in front of him tries to go around, almost squashing him. He steps in front again. What is he doing? Does he have a death wish? The fearful shining eyes of the pulsing throng are engrossed on the scene as the small businessman adjusts his grip on the bags in his left hand. The lid to the tank pops open. People gasp. A soldier, equal parts bewildered and angry, peeks out of the portal and says something to the man. The tiny man begins to climb the hulking steel machine, making his way to the soldier. They'll kill him. He's lost his mind. There's a blinding silence from the soldier's searching scandalized eyes as the businessman leans in and asks him a question. Excuse me, Where's the bathroom? If you'd like to trade more freely, be sure to check out the peer-to-peer non-KYC private trading opportunities available at local.bitcoin.com. Yeah, whatever. This post was written by Graham Smith, an American expat living in Japan, and the founder of Voluntary Japan, an initiative dedicated to spreading the philosophies of unschooling individual self-ownership and economic freedom in the land of the rising sun. Op-ed disclaimer, this is an op-ed article. The opinions expressed in the article are the author's own. Bitcoin.com is not blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I agree with the sentiments herein, Mr. Graham Smith, and no one actually commented on this thing yet. I think it's a little bit broader than is encapsulated by this article. There are markets out there right now that don't interface with fiat at all and are not KYC bound at all. And the evidence for which is on the Bitcoin blockchain. When you see a transaction for like $400 million in Bitcoin and the guy pays like a $5 transaction fee for it, you can tell there's no fucking friction there. That's from one party to another. That's not from, some fucking regulated KYC organization to another. That's in a back alley somewhere. Somebody has that kind of liquidity to move around, and they do it. And that's pretty much it. What it's actually transacted for, what it's actually buying, we have no idea. And we don't really care. It's not really any of our business. And, the more scrutiny that you pay on that stuff, put to that, the more you're going to find people like, the president's daughter, somebody like that. I mean, those are the people that have that kind of liquidity to move around. And they're just doing it in the easiest, most friction-free way. We don't have anything to say about it. But anyway, let's get into this other thing, because this is like from a regulatory standpoint, and this is on bitcoinist.com. I'd really like to know the nature of these complaints too. This is Japanese watchdog reports 69% in cryptocurrency complaints. This is by Osato Avan Nomato. Avan Nomeo, not Nomato. My apologies there. Check and verify something here. And of course, it just gives me the goddamn articles this person has written. So, no attribution of penis or whatever, because there's no picture. Son of a bitch. Anyway. So here it is. Japanese watchdog reports blah blah blah. More consumer queries about cryptocurrency in 2018. In its report that we can right click on and check, the Japanese Consumer Affairs Agency, CAA, revealed that cryptocurrency related queries totaled 3,657 cases. This figure constitutes a 69% spike from 2017's figures. When was this actually written? Give us a fucking date. Yeah, June 19th, 2017. Okay, so relatively recent. Okay. I was kind of concerned there from the 2018 quote. From 2017's figures, which amounted to 2,166 cases. Despite the increase in the overall number, the year-on-year growth in total number of complaints did increase to a 1.7 times in 2017. Previous years had recorded more than a 3.5 times growth, or 3x growth, in the number of queries received by the CAA. The increase in the number of complaints is another indication of the popularity of the industry, despite the bear market conditions in 2018. Last year, cryptocurrency prices tanked after reaching record highs in late 2017. The massive plummet in prices across the board quite also possibly contributed to more complaints being registered. Back in 2018, Value Penguin, a consumer research firm, issued a report showing that the early 2018 decline in cryptocurrency prices triggered an increase in consumer complaints across the United States. A plethora of complaints and queries. According to the CAA report, the complaints received contained questions concerning several facets of the cryptocurrency market. Some of the core areas distilled from the over 3,600 cases included inquiries about privacy, refunds in the event of theft or platform issues, and poor user interface on some exchanges, to mention a few. One of the more troubling complaints received by the CAA was some traders claiming certain exchanges engaged in fraudulent behavior, false advertising, withholding customer deposits, and not delivering purchased cryptocurrencies. The country's financial services agency, FSA, will most likely be coordinating with the CAA to investigate these matters. The financial regulator has, since 2017, increased its oversight of the cryptocurrency trading area. Recently, the FSA has announced its intention to introduce even tighter regulatory control on cryptocurrency exchanges. This move comes as the country pushes for a favorable rating by the Financial Action Trade Task Force, the FATF, when the intergovernmental body comes visiting later on in the year. According to the report, most of the queries revolved around altcoin trading. The CAA says the number of Bitcoin traded questions declined from 2017 to 2018. Back in April 2019, Australia's consumer protection watchdog also reported a 200% spike in crypto-related fraud in 2018. What do you think of the report? Let us know in the comments below. I think it's a bunch of bullshit, and we're actually going to check it out if at all possible. Let's see here. Collection on it, blah blah blah. Let's get into the fucking meat of this thing. How big is it? Table of figures, table of contents. Give me the fucking publication. Jesus Christ. Let's see here. Publications. Looking for the actual report, or the most recent report, and it doesn't seem like they actually have a recent one. So my feeling on this is that the FATF is going to continue to find issues with regard to compliance. I think one of the biggest problems is that their expectations are completely overblown and incompatible with these markets. The type of privacy and autonomy that cryptocurrencies enable put them so far outside of the regulatory constraints that these guys wish to push that effective compliance would be relatively nil. I mean, I don't know. I don't really understand what these guys wish to achieve. At most they're going to be outing the fact that people make money and that they're not actually paying taxes on it. And what's that going to achieve? Probably nothing. The fact of the matter is these people being able to make money in the way that they're making money enables them to spend it on goods and services that themselves have their own taxation regimes on. So what you really need to be worried about is the service providers. Are they going according to the compliance measures? And chances are they're not. And so you can just fuck off. I really think that these guys, they exist just to demand that we pay them to continue to exist. And in the long term, I see them basically falling out of fashion. That the certainty of cryptocurrency transactions, they eliminate a lot of the issues here. Where we're experiencing the most losses are the interface between cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies. This is the only place where trust is really involved and really has the potential to go in a negative manner. The complaints about people not getting their cryptocurrency, that's at the point of trust with a cryptocurrency exchange. But we have plenty of tools out there that enable us to set and escrow the funds on either side of the exchange and just do the exchange between one another. I think that is the biggest problem with all of this. Is there's the assumption that there is a need for a trusted entity to arbitrate the transactions. And there really isn't. If you can certify that the transactions actually exist, I can certify that the product is going to be on its way, or that it does exist and I do have it available and you can purchase it if only you send me the funds. Send me the funds, I send you the product, everybody happy. If I don't send you the product, blast it all over fucking Twitter. Say, hey, this guy's a fucking asshole scammer. He's not actually paying me. Don't do business with him. And if you got any cred worth of shit, your friends are going to react to it, and they're not going to do business with me. And they're going to tell other people, hey, that guy's an asshole. Don't do business with him. And they're not going to do business with me either. And that's how these markets have worked this entire time. When I first started trading, there was the troll box on Cryptsy. It was fucking legendary. Because there was just no fucking mute button, man. When people wanted to talk shit about shit, they talked shit about it, man. And it had real effects on the market. But good players were called out as well as bad players. And we knew in real time, hey, this network's having trouble. Fucking ditch that coin. And we could react in a real-time basis on that. And we still do that in other troll boxes. But I'm just saying that type of interface, that's more powerful than any of these fucking watchdog groups or the fucking Fat F or any of those guys. It's the market as live and as close to from fucking stimulus to response as you can ever find. Anything above that is basically a trust level. Anyway, I'm kind of winding down. I'm still recovering, so my voice isn't like 100% yet. You're going to have to forgive me on that point. Let me see if I got anything really short and sweet here. Oh, I think we could probably do this one. We could fit this one in. And this guy, he just fails to ever fully go away. Craig Wright. Apparently he's still in court in Florida. And this is on Coindesk.com. Craig Wright provides new details on Bitcoin Trust at heart of U.S. lawsuit. And this is by Daniel Kuhn, June 20th, 2019 at 1950 UTC. Updated June 20th, 1951 UTC. New details have emerged on the ongoing lawsuit in the U.S. filed last year against Craig S. Wright, the technologist who claims to be the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. A redacted version, or a redacted declaration filing from Kleeman v. Wright surfaced today, which details Wright's purported ownership and the trustee scheme of the Tulip Trust, which supposedly holds over 1 million Bitcoin. According to the filing, access to the holdings of the trust requires participation of all trustees, at least one of whom hasn't been in contact for several years. The court document was originally filed on May 8th and also points to the existence of a second Tulip Trust known as Tulip Trust 2. Days before the document was filed, a federal court ordered Wright to disclose his Bitcoin addresses in the ongoing lawsuit. Wright is being sued by Ira Kleeman on behalf of the estate of his brother, the late Dave Kleeman. The N-Chain's chief scientist is accused of scheming to seize Dave's Bitcoins and his rights to certain intellectual property associated with the Bitcoin technology. Kleeman is seeking half of the 1.1 million Bitcoins the two are said to have mined together, or its fair market value, as well as compensation for infringement of intellectual property. The initial complaint did not seek to ascertain whether Wright is the person behind the Nakamoto identity, stating that it is unclear whether Craig, Dave, and or both created Bitcoin. According to the declaration released Thursday, the Tulip Trust consolidated the Bitcoin Wright mined and purchased between 2009 and 2011. That's kind of hard to do. Yeah, okay, whatever. The trust first came to public attention through a leaked document on December 9, 2015. Allegedly written in 2011 by Dave Kleeman, a forensic computer investigator and author, the document describes a trust fund containing exactly 1,100,111 Bitcoin, quote, to be managed by at least 3 people, but not more than 7 at any time. The document also declares the Bitcoin holding is to be returned to Craig on January 1st, 2020. These new developments come amid an ongoing mediation process, which as of June 18th has yielded no results. In the words of the mediator, as reported by attorney Stephen Paley, we are at an impasse. As it stands, Wright is due for deposition in Florida on June 28th. Trust details. According to Wright's court declaration, 7 trustees were named, including Craig Wright, Dave Kleeman, and Ms. Eugen, whom Wright claimed he has no contact with since 2016. That said, Kleeman was the initial and sole trustee before others were appointed. Panopticrypt Pty Ltd., an Australian entity now in liquidation, was also named alongside an unnamed Seychelles entity and Coin Ltd., a UK entity liquidated in 2017. The contacts on Coin 1 were Dave Kleeman and Ms. Nguyen, who was terminated as director on June 1st, 2016. Presently, there is no one other than myself who was a contact for this entity. Nguyen was allegedly terminated as director of Coin on 2016. The final trustee listed is the, quote, holder of PGP key IDs, which is Satoshi Nakamoto, with Craig Wright parenthetically related. In the past, Wright has said that trust is encrypted using a method called Shamir's secret sharing algorithm. The only way to access them, he said, is to accrue the collective private keys in order to decrypt it. Yeah, whatever. He's asking for other people's private keys. Wright complied with the directive pursuant to a court order to produce Bitcoin holdings for all Bitcoin Wright mined prior to December 31st, 2013. The filings were subsequently sealed. The Tulip Trust 2 was settled in 2014 in Seychelles with Ecuador Consultants listed as a trustee. Wright and his wife, Ramona Watts, are the primary beneficiaries. The holdings of this second trust are unknown. Wright also hinted at an inaccessible trove of Bitcoin mined between 2011 and 2013 by staff at high-secured Insignia Enterprises under his direction to be held on behalf of the original Tulip Trust. Wright alleges the principals of high-secured were arrested in 2015. Wright has claimed in the past that the Tulip Trust is currently inaccessible. In the court document, Wright said, quote, "Access to the encrypted file that contains the public addresses and their associated private keys to the Bitcoin that I mined requires myself and combination of trustees referenced in Tulip Trust 1 to unlock based on Shamir's scheme." Dave Kleeman passed away in 2013. Last December, the court denied Wright's attempt to dismiss the lawsuit, saying that he, quote, "converted at least 300,000 Bitcoins upon Dave's death and transferred them to various international trusts." The court filing can be found below, blah, 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 and we're not going to go through that. And that's that. So, yeah, apparently the story is not over for Mr. Wright, and I've predicted before this thing even started, when he started claiming that he was Satoshi Nakamoto and that he started getting business associates that were cheerleading him and claiming that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, that two things would happen. This would all end in either A, him proving that he's Satoshi Nakamoto, in which case he would be due lawsuits and potentially prison sentences, or number two, that he is proven not to be Satoshi Nakamoto, in which case he would be due for some lawsuits and some prison sentences. So yeah, ending all in tears for Craig S. Wright, either way. And so it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I think this one is very, very fitting. And if I can find it, here it is. Escape from the Prison Planet by Clutch. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend. Good night.